Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I have a technique to share to create our card called die stenciling, and this is the card that we're going to create, and it also allows me to introduce one of the specialty papers in the annual catalogue called Distressed Gold. So for this technique you're going to need a stamp set with some coordinating dies, and you're going to need some thick card, and that will become clear in a little while. Now you want to choose a die set that's got solid outlines rather than these ones which have got sort of a very delicate edge with holes in the middle. And you also need to select a die that has got a coordinating stamp. Now in this particular set, Splendid Thoughts, there are two stamps that have a stamp and an exactly coordinating die. And what I've done is create a stencil by running the die through my cut and emboss machine on some thick card, and you can use the thick white cardstock that we carry or coloured cardstock, but I've actually used the back of some of our decorative paper packs. That's nice and thick and it gives a good result. So you don't need these bits, although if you wanted to keep them for another project you can go ahead and do that. And so these dies match up with the stamp. There's that one and this one, and that's why, as I say, you need to have a stamp that will match up exactly with one of your dies, and the dies need to be sort of outline dies as opposed to the very fine sort of delicate edge dies that we've got in here. Alrighty, so now I've got my two stencils. I am gonna go ahead and stamp my images, and I'm using some vanilla cardstock, and this piece I'm using is 5 by 3 3/4. Now you don't need to remember those measurements, because if you check below this video there is a link to my blog, and all the information that you'll need as well as the supplies I'm using will be there. Now the Splendid Thoughts stamp set has got some lovely greetings, and I'm going to use the one that says let's celebrate. Now one of the things I always say about stamping is it's supposed to be fun. So trying to center and level up my greeting, although I do it quite a bit, on this card I am just going to quickly place it across the corner like that. No hassle, no freaking out, no worrying that it's not level and it's not straight. I'm then going to place my largest stamp first, and I'm going to position it so that the stem is sort of coming toward the middle, but my leaves are toward the outside. And I like to think of this as a bit like Japanese style flower arranging. I think I seem to remember it's known as ikebana from my travels that I used to do to Japan quite frequently 20 odd years ago. And then the second piece, this reminds me a bit like eucalyptus. I don't know if it is supposed to be eucalyptus, but it reminds me of that. And I'm going to place this one so that it just hits the card, but it's coming to one side like that. So that's my stamping for now. And now I'm going to pull out my blending brushes. I love these. You can see that these are well loved and well used. And when I'm doing working through in a minute, I will explain to you how to clean them. Now I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided repositionable tape just to hold this down. And I'm going to line up my stencil, and I just want to make sure that I've got my stem well in, and I've got like an even border around my little leaves. And I'm going to just tack that down and get another piece just to tack it down again. I discovered this repositionable tape a few weeks ago and it's been so useful. So now I'm going to use the Blackberry Bliss, which is the ink I used for stamping my leaf. And I'm going to load a little ink on there, just with a little bit of a smooshing on there. And then I'm going to put my finger on here to be able to apply some pressure. I'm going to tap gently on one side of my paper to make sure I haven't got any blobby bits. And then I'm going to start off of my card and just use a circular motion. I find if you use a circular motion, it gets in all the nooks and crannies. And I'm just going to be careful to make sure I don't go over my edge and get the ink on the other side, or my lower piece. Now, the depth of ink that you want will depend on how much brushing that you have to do. I don't want it ever so dark. I want a contrast, but I don't want to lose the nice stamped image that I've put. As I say, I'm just going to scrooge in those tips of those leaves to make sure that I've got my colour right up into those ends there. And this bit I'm a weeny bit concerned about because it hasn't got much colour. If you see, I haven't got much colour in there, but it's so close to the edge. And that's why you need to use a fairly large piece of card to create your stencil, so it gives you some working room. I think this is like 6 by 4. I think I managed to get like 6 pieces out of a 12 by 12 piece of that backing sheet. Now I've completed my Blackberry Bliss part. I'm going to remove that particular stencil, and I'm going to line up this one. And again, I'm just going to make sure that I've got my stem down here showing, and I'm going to take a little bit of the tape off of this one. And this shows you how repositionable it is. See, hasn't pulled off any of the surface of my card at all. And pop that down there. And this time I'm going in with the Mossy Meadow. And again, I'm just going to pick a little bit of ink up, stop it to one side. That's quite strong. So I'm going to just, again, got my finger on the top, circular motion, and I'm going to add my green in. Now I promised to explain how to get these brushes clean. You could, in fact, have one for each colour and just put a little label on the top. I don't have enough storage room to have one for all 40 colours that Stampin' Up! Offer. But what I do is I have some set aside for dark colours and some set aside for light colours. So I've sort of got a reds and greens here. Now I will be cleaning these by running them underneath a tap until they come out clear. And then I'll get a little piece of kitchen paper towel and dab off all of the moisture, and then I just leave them overnight. Now they might not come up brilliant white like they were originally when I got them, but the colour will be, the active colour will be gone, and I'll be able to use them again. I think you can see this one. I think I probably used this one on maybe crumb cake or something like that in the past, and it has just discoloured them a little bit, but it's certainly working okay now. So there's my decorated piece there. Don't you think that's lovely? I really think that's a really pretty technique. And it was inspired by Colleen Magnus, and I'd like to thank her for sharing it with us. So now I've got that, I'm just going to quickly, while I've got the green out, going to decorate my envelope. Just going to pop a little stamp across the corner there. And then I also like to put in a liner, so I'm able to write my "To You, Love from Me" greeting. So I've got that bit done. Now my base today is Mossy Meadow, and I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive to attach the two. And then I'm going to attach this to my card base with some Stampin' Dimensionals, one in each corner and one in the middle. Oh, it's being a bit argumentative. Yeah, I think I've got them all off. Now my card base is Blackberry Bliss, so I'm pulling sort of all my colours together. I'm going to pop that there like that. And then I'm going to add my liner. Now you could go ahead and do the stenciling technique inside if you wanted to, as well as on your envelope. I did do that on my sample, but you can, here you go, there's my sample. It looks quite effective. So now we're just going to finish off with our decorative elements. So this is a new, it was new to us in May. It's called Distressed Gold. It's lovely paper. It's plain on the back. It hasn't got an awful lot of thickness, so it's not going to make a sturdy card base, but it makes a great layer, and it cuts beautifully with our dies. So so I'm going to be using two of the dies from the same set. One is is going to produce an outline, and the other is going to produce the little pot. I'm going to use my mini cut and emboss machine. Make sure it's the right way round. So for this one, I'm going to be using the white number 1 plate, and then I'm going to be putting a number 2 clear plate down. Then I've got my 2 pieces of the distressed gold, and then I'm going to lay my dies down, and it's sort of the rough side down. That's our cutting edge, like that. And then there, and another number 2 on. I'm just going to gently push it in till it catches. It's going to argue with me. Oh, and it's moved now. Hold on. Ooh. I'm going to turn it round and work, because I am a very right-handed person. And that's moved again. Ooh, you little terror. There we go. There, you see, if you use it correctly, it works perfectly. If you try and work cack-handed, it'll argue. Here's my lovely pieces. See how beautifully and easily that is cut out of there. And I'm just going to get my, take your pick tool and just gently ease it out, and we'll get rid of all of that, and we're left with these pieces. So to attach my gold piece here, as you can see, it's really dainty. I could have put the adhesive sheet on the back, but I decided I would use a little of the liquid adhesive on the back of my hand. Now, if you are allergic to these sorts of things, please don't put it on the back of your hand. But if you're like me, got tough skin, I find that it works really well. And then a little bit on this stem. And I'm going to attach this so it sort of goes up through the middle, like that. Just gently press those pieces down. And then for my little pot, I'm going to add a couple of dimensionals to the back. And then it's stuck to my nail. And then I'm just going to position this so that it covers my stalks and looks relatively centered. And there we have a lovely technique, a really pretty card. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please go ahead, give me a little thumbs up. If you don't already, perhaps you go and subscribe to my channel. And any comments you care to leave, I'd certainly be happy to see them. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. Bye for now.